You just guaranteed your death, son. The old woman's voice cut through the Texas heat like a knife. Her hand didn't move toward the ancient colt on her hip. Didn't need to. Behind her, the scarred mare's ears flattened, hooves shifting into something that looked almost human. Combat stance. Luca Castillo froze, gun halfway drawn, suddenly aware he'd made a terrible mistake. But let's back up. Before you find out how a cocky gunslinger ended up staring down death in the form of a 60-year-old woman and her horse, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, now's the time. And comment where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Because what happened next in Fort Stockton, Texas in 1886 would become the most dangerous love story the West ever witnessed. 3 hours earlier, Luca Castillo rode into town like he owned it. 28 years old, 6 notches on his gun, swagger in every step. He'd killed men in Abilene, Dodge City, Tombstone, professional, dangerous, feared. Fort Stockton hadn't seen trouble in months. That changed when Luca hitched his stallion outside Emily Allen's saloon. Another horse stood at the post. Old paint mare, maybe 30 years. Scarred flanks, grey muzzle, worthless. Luca sneered, flicked his cigarette at the animal. The mare flinched, turned her head, eyes too intelligent for a horse, made Luca uncomfortable. So he did what men like him did when uncomfortable, got mean. Move, you old crowbait. He shoved the mare roughly. She stumbled, chains rattling. He laughed, pushed harder. Her shoulder hit the post. Inside, a woman stood from her corner table. 60 years old. Weathered face, clothes worn thin. She'd been drinking coffee, minding her business, trying to stay invisible, trying to stay retired. Then she heard it. Her horse, in distress. Something cold settled in her chest. Something she'd buried 30 years ago when she hung up her guns and tried to be normal. Tried to forget the blood, the bodies, the reputation that made grown men cross the street. "Easy there, ma'am," Emily Allen said from behind the bar. The 55-year-old bartender knew that look, had seen it before, years ago, when this town was wilder. Probably just some drifter being careless. The old woman stood slowly, joints protesting. 60 years of hard living catching up. She walked to the door, pushed through, stopped on the boardwalk. Luca had a riding crop now, striking the mare. Not hard enough to truly injure. He knew horses, knew how to hurt without crippling, but enough to establish dominance. The mare tried to back away, couldn't. Chains held her. "Hey," Luca called, seeing the woman. "This your broken-down nag?" The woman didn't answer. Just walked down the steps, slow and careful. Her eyes moved from Luca to the horse. Saw the fresh welt. Saw blood where the crop broke skin. Saw her oldest friend hurting. "I asked you a question, old woman." Luca's hand rested on his colt, casual, confident. "Yes." Her voice was quiet. Too quiet. "That's Duchess. She's mine. Been mine for 33 years. Luca laughed. 33 years? Should put it down. Do it a favor." The woman walked to Duchess, ran her hand along the horse's neck, felt the animal trembling, not from fear, but restrained anger. Duchess knew violence, had participated in it more times than either could count, was waiting for the signal. "Easy, girl," the woman whispered. "Easy." She examined the welt. Not deep. Would heal. But it was the principle. Nobody touched Duchess. Nobody. That was the rule. Had been for 33 years. "You know what you've done?" The old woman turned to face Luca. "Smacked around some worn-out horse that shouldn't be alive." Luca's hand stayed near his colt. He'd killed 6 men. Fast draw. Accurate. This old woman didn't worry him. "You've made a mistake. A serious mistake. You hurt my horse, my partner, my oldest friend, the only living thing that's been with me through everything." Her voice stayed quiet, but something in it made Luca's confidence flicker. "Now you decide. Apologize and ride out, or face consequences." Luca laughed, full belly laugh. This ancient woman threatening him? "Old woman, I don't know who you think you are, but my name," she said, "is Rose McKenna, and this is Duchess. 30 years ago we were the most dangerous thing in 3 territories. Bounty hunters, deputies, soldiers. We tracked over 180 men. Brought in 132 alive. Killed 48 who wouldn't come peacefully. We never lost. Not once." Luca's smile faded slightly. Rose McKenna. The name stirred memory. Old stories. The woman who could shoot ambidextrous. The horse that would kill on command. Legends from the 50s and 60s. But that was decades ago. Ancient history. "I've heard the stories," Luca said. "Don't believe half. And even if true, that was 30 years ago. You're old. Horse is old. I'm in my prime." He squared his shoulders. "So unless you want to die in this street, shut your mouth and walk away." Rose looked at Duchess. The horse looked back. 33 years of partnership. They didn't need words. Duchess's ears flicked forward. Ready. Rose turned back to Luca. "Son, you just guaranteed your death. Question is, you want it quick or slow?" A crowd gathered. Word spread fast in small towns. Gunfight brewing. Young killer versus old legend. Everyone betting on Luca. Poor old fool didn't stand a chance. But the older residents remembered. Rose McKenna and Duchess. The duo that cleaned up half of West Texas. The bounty hunter who never missed. The horse that fought like a trained war dog. "Luca," one old-timer called from the boardwalk. "You might want to reconsider." Luca ignored him, eyes locked on Rose. "I'm counting to 3. Then I draw. You can apologize and walk, or you can die." Rose didn't move, hand nowhere near the old Colt on her hip. That gun was ancient. 1851 Navy model, probably didn't even fire anymore. 1. Luca's fingers flexed. Duchess shifted position. Subtle. Most wouldn't notice. But the horse was angling her body. Hooves planted different. Combat stance. 33 years of training didn't fade. 2. Rose's breathing slowed. Muscle memory from decades of killing. Her hand still nowhere near her gun. Luca thought that meant fear. It didn't. It meant something else entirely. 3. Rose whistled. One short, sharp note. Duchess exploded into motion. The old horse moved faster than anything that age should move. Rear hooves lashed out, snapping the hitching chain like thread. Front hooves came up as she reared. Luca's draw was fast, professional. His Colt cleared leather in a blink, but he was aiming at Rose. Didn't see the half-ton of trained warhorse coming until too late. Duchess's front hooves crashed down, not on Luca. That would have killed him instantly, ended it too quick. No. Duchess hit his gun hand, precisely, deliberately. Bones shattered. The Colt flew 20 feet. Luca screamed, stumbled back. Before he could recover, Duchess spun. Rear hooves caught him in the chest, not full force. Duchess knew exactly how hard to hit. Enough to launch Luca backward into the dirt. Enough to crack ribs. Not enough to kill. Not yet. Luca lay gasping. Broken hand clutched to his chest, looked up, saw Rose walking toward him, saw her hand finally moving to her gun, saw death coming. "I told you," Rose said quietly. "You made a mistake." Luca tried to crawl backward, broken ribs screaming, shattered hand useless. His left hand scrambled for his second Colt, got it halfway out. Duchess's hoof came down on his wrist, pinning it, not breaking, just holding. Luca looked up into the horse's eyes, saw intelligence, calculation. This wasn't some dumb animal. This was a warrior. "Please," Luca gasped. "I didn't know." "Didn't know what?" Rose stood over him. "Didn't know who you were. And if you had known, you would have been respectful, kind." Rose shook her head. "No. You would have just been careful. Big difference between being good and being careful. You're not good. You're just a bully who picked the wrong target. If this story makes you think about respect, about consequences, about how we treat those we think are beneath us, maybe that reflection is worth sharing. Maybe subscribing means you believe stories like this matter, that old legends and hard truths deserve to be remembered. Your choice. Just like Luca had a choice. "Rose!" Sheriff Martinez pushed through the crowd. Young man. Fair. "That's enough. You made your point." "This man assaulted my horse, Sheriff. My property, my right to defend it. By beating him to death in the street? That's murder, Rose. Don't care who you used to be." Rose looked down at Luca. Broken. Humiliated. Hurting. 30 years ago, she would have killed him without hesitation. That's how the frontier worked. You hurt a woman's horse. You died. Simple. Clean. Final. But 30 years changed a person. Made them tired. Made them think about consequences. Made them wonder if every problem needed solving with death. "Duchess," Rose said quietly. "Release." The horse lifted her hoof, stepped back. "Get up," Rose ordered. "Get on your horse. Ride out. If I ever see you again, if you ever come near me or Duchess again, I'll finish what we started. Understand?" Luca nodded frantically, struggled to his feet, stumbled to his stallion, mounted one-handed, agony clear on his face, kicked the horse into a gallop, gone in seconds. The crowd dispersed, muttering. Sheriff Martinez stayed. "That was mercy," Martinez said. "Old Rose McKenna wouldn't have shown mercy." "Old Rose McKenna is dead," Rose replied. "Has been for 30 years. This is just a woman trying to live out her days in peace." But as she turned to check on Duchess, both knew the truth. Old Rose McKenna wasn't dead. Just sleeping. And Luca Castillo had woken her up. Rose ran her hands over Duchess, checking for injuries. The horse stood calm, breathing steady. 33 years. They'd been through worse. Much worse. This was nothing. "You did good, girl," Rose whispered. "Just like old times." Duchess nuzzled her shoulder. The gesture made Rose's throat tight. "Rose." Sheriff Martinez approached carefully. "We need to talk." "About what?" "I defended my property. That's legal." "About why you're really here. In my town. After 30 years of nothing." Martinez crossed his arms. "You've been here 4 weeks. Quiet. Keeping to yourself. Why?" Rose was quiet for a moment. "I'm dying, Sheriff." The words hung in the air like gun smoke. "Doctor in El Paso gave me 8 months. Maybe less. Consumption. All those years breathing dust and gunpowder, I suppose." Rose patted Duchess's neck. "I wanted to spend my last months somewhere peaceful, where me and Duchess could just exist, without trouble, without violence, just peace." Martina's expression softened. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Nobody does, and I'd appreciate keeping it that way." Rose looked at him. When I go, I've arranged for Duchess to go to a ranch outside town. Woman named Clara Reeves runs it. She'll take care of her. What if Luca comes back? With friends? Revenge? Then me and Duchess handle it like we always have. You can't fight a whole gang, not at your age, not with— He gestured vaguely at her chest. Sheriff, I've been dying since the day I was born, just moving faster now. If I'm going out protecting what's mine. But Rose was wrong about one thing. Luca Castillo didn't come back for revenge. 3 days later he came back for answers. And something else he couldn't quite name. He found Rose at the stable, brushing Duchess down after a morning ride. His right hand was splinted, bandaged. His face showed healing bruises, but his eyes showed something different than before. Not rage, curiosity, and something that looked almost like respect. I'm not armed, Luca said from the doorway, hands visible. Just came to talk. Rose didn't turn, just kept brushing. Talk about what? About how a 60-year-old woman and a 30-year-old horse took me apart like I was nothing. About how you could have killed me, but didn't. He paused. About who Rose McKenna really is. Rose finally turned, studied him, saw something different in his stance. Less swagger, more genuine. Who I was, Rose corrected. Who I was 30 years ago. That's not what I saw 3 days ago. I saw who you still are. Luca took a careful step inside. Duchess's ears flattened, but Rose touched her neck. Easy. Why are you really here, Mr. Castillo? Luca. And honestly, he exhaled. Because I've never been beaten that badly. Never been spared when I should have died. And I've been thinking about why. Why you showed mercy. Maybe I was just tired. No. Luca shook his head. You made a choice. Could have ended me. Wanted to. I saw it in your eyes. But you chose different. He looked at Duchess. You both did. Rose set down the brush. What do you want, Luca? To apologize. To Duchess first. He approached slowly. The mare watched him, suspicious. I was wrong. Cruel. You didn't deserve that. Neither did Rose. He looked at the old woman. I've spent 10 years being the man everyone fears. Never thought about being the man people respect. Something in his voice was real, raw. Rose had heard thousands of lies in her career. This wasn't one. Apology noted, Rose said carefully. Now what? Now. Luca hesitated. Now I want to know how you did it. How you became legendary. How you and Duchess became whatever you are. Partners doesn't seem like enough. We're family, Rose said simply. That's what 33 years earns you. Trust, love, understanding without words. I've never had that with anyone. That's sad, Mr. Castillo. Luca, he corrected again. And yes, it is. Over the following week, something unexpected happened. Luca kept coming back, not to intimidate, not to challenge, to learn. He'd sit on the stable fence while Rose worked with Duchess, watch how they moved together, how Rose's slightest gesture meant something to the horse, how Duchess anticipated needs before Rose voiced them. You talk to her like a person, Luca observed one afternoon, because she is a person, just not human. Rose smiled slightly. Duchess has saved my life 14 times. I've saved hers 9. That's not owner and property. That's partnership. Emily Allen noticed the change too. The bartender watched from her saloon as the feared gunslinger transformed. Softer, thoughtful. He'd help Rose carry supplies, check Duchess's hooves, learn. He's falling for you, Emily told Rose one evening. Don't be ridiculous. I'm 60 years old and dying. And he's 28 and learning what real strength looks like. Emily wiped down the bar. I've known men like Luca. All violence, no substance. But you're teaching him substance, whether you mean to or not. Rose wanted to dismiss it. But she'd noticed things too. How Luca smiled differently now. Genuine, not cocky. How he'd bring her coffee in the mornings. Ask about her past with real interest, not morbid curiosity. How he'd sit with Duchess for hours, just talking to her, apologizing, building trust. I don't have time for this, Rose told Emily. 8 months, maybe less. Maybe that's exactly why it matters, Emily said gently. Last chance for connection, for both of you. One evening, Luca found Rose sitting outside the stable, watching sunset. Duchess grazed nearby. Can I sit? He asked. Rose nodded. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Luca spoke. I'm falling in love with you. Rose's breath caught. You can't, Rose said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm dying. You're young. This is impossible. Everything about you is impossible, Luca said. 60 years old and faster than men half your age. A horse that fights like a soldier. A woman who showed mercy when she had every right to kill. He turned to her. You taught me that strength isn't about how many people you can hurt. It's about choosing not to when you can. Luca, I know you're dying. I know we don't have much time. But doesn't that make it matter more? Not less. His eyes held hers. I've wasted 10 years being feared. I want to spend however long you have left learning to be loved. By you. Rose felt tears she hadn't cried in decades. You understand this ends badly. I die. You're alone. Duchess grieves. There's no happy ending. The happy ending is now, Luca said softly. However many days we get. That's the happy ending. Rose looked at Duchess. The horse was watching them, intelligent eyes knowing. 33 years meant Duchess understood. Understood her human deserved this. Deserved love. Deserved peace before the end. Rose took Luca's hand. Okay. Stories like this, about redemption, about love found in impossible places, about old legends teaching new warriors what matters. These stories need witnesses. If you've stayed this long, if you believe second chances and dying wishes and the power of connection matter, then subscribe, share this, comment where you're watching from. Because Rose and Luca's story, Duchess's loyalty, the truth that it's never too late to change, that deserves to live beyond them, beyond us all. They had 6 months. Rose taught Luca everything. Duchess accepted him. And when Rose finally passed, peacefully, with both of them beside her, she died knowing she'd changed a killer into a man worth loving.